Good morning. You're listening to National Real Estate Auction Radio. I am your host, Doug Dennison, and we are broadcasting from beautiful St. Augustine, Florida, the nation's oldest city at WFOY, 1240 AM studios. Through the power of the internet, this program is being streamed worldwide on 1240news.com. The show will also be archived on RowellAuctions.com, as they are the host of this program. Additionally, the show will be posted on YouTube.com. We're going to be talking about real estate auctions, past auctions, upcoming auctions, different real estate markets across the country. We've got a lot of topics today to help us out. We've got a VIP in the studio. The CEO of Rowell Auctions, Tommy Rowell, is in the studio today in St. Augustine. Tommy, great to see you, and thanks for being here.
Doug, it's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Very good. We've also got Tony Floyd, who is the Chief Marketing Officer from Prudential Georgia Realty in Atlanta. He's on the line, so we're going to put him on in just a minute. Want to let everybody know that our radio show mission statement is to provide an educational experience for listeners in a promotional format for auctions across the country. Tony, are you with us?
I am. Good morning.
Well, good morning, Tony, and thank you so much for being on the show today. You and I have never met. We got together through, it's kind of a weird thing, but I used to work with Michael Pappas with Kai's and down in South Florida, which is an independent, and he knows your boss, CEO Dan Forsman, and we had an Atlanta auction, I'm going to say a month or two ago, and I just kind of shot out the information. I think it was a couple hundred properties in Atlanta, and I just shot out the information to Mike Pappas, and he forwarded it to Dan, who apparently got it out to all your agents, and just a wonderful thing, which we'll talk about a little bit more, that real estate brokers and auctioneers, we all play in the same sandbox, and we get along very, very well. So I want to thank you very much for that. And you're on the show, so tell us a little bit about yourself, Tony. Where you're from, what you do, all that kind of good stuff.
Well, I grew up in North Carolina, actually, in the foothills of North Carolina, and went to college at the University of North Carolina. So I am a Tar Heel fan. And over the years, I spent a lot of time in the business world in the technology sector, really providing services to a variety of different industries. So I grew up in IBM, ran e-business for a big company called Bell South, which was absorbed by AT&T, and spent a lot of time building and developing sales and professional services organizations in those industries. And it's kind of ironic that real estate really is a professional service, and a lot of the same things that have evolved and continue to evolve in other industries are happening to the world of real estate. And I have always loved innovation and new ways to do things that benefit clients and benefit companies. And I got involved in the real estate business about 6 years ago. The gentleman you mentioned, Dan Forsman, who's our president and CEO, was my neighbor. And so we would literally be at our kids' sports events talking about business stuff, and I'd tell him about some innovation or some new model in another industry, and he'd tell me stuff about real estate, and we kept looking at each other like, well, goodness, what's happening in real estate and what you've seen happening in these other industries, there's something we could probably do to take advantage of here. And so we decided to join forces, and it's been a great ride ever since. Well,
very good. It's quite a jump from IBM to real estate, and that happens a lot in this day and age, I think. My background, I was with the YMCA. I was vice president of the Miami YMCA, and here I am in real estate auctions 25 years later. It's crazy, but a lot of the skills transfer and are applicable. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. They're great lessons to learn from other industries, and there are business principles and attributes of success that work in most industries, especially sales and professional services related industries. And we've been able to take advantage of a lot of those things. And our team's very diverse, so we have different backgrounds and think a little bit differently. So we may debate vigorously, but in the end, we make better decisions, and the results of our performance have proven that out.
Well, tell me about your company. How many agents? How far do you go out? Is it just residential? What kind of volume do you do? I mean, you're one of the top companies around, and so I wanted to hear from you what's happening up there, and what do you do?
Sure. The general overview is we are a franchise of the Prudential Real Estate Network, so we participate in several larger networks around the country. And you mentioned Mike Pappas, and we actually know him through the Realty Alliance, which is another network that we participate in. With that particular group's made up of the largest independent real estate companies in America, and we do meet regularly with those folks. But our company here locally is, it's locally owned. We are the franchise for Prudential for the greater Metro Atlanta area. That covers from what we know as the main areas of Metro Atlanta up into the mountains, down to what we call the Southern Crescent, and over reaching toward Athens, and over to the West Metro side, reaching almost to the state of Alabama. So we have a pretty broad area. It's about 43 counties that we actually cover.
Wow.
We have 1,000 agents and 22 offices around that territory. Yes, residential is our mainstay of the business, but we're pretty diversified. We have a commercial real estate operation. We have a very large corporate relocation team, and we're, in fact, the largest in our area in that business. We have a property management business, a new homes business. So we're pretty diversified in that respect, and that helps us as the market cycles in different ways over time.
Well, it does go up and down, and I'm going to introduce you to my CEO at the same time, just because he's in the studio with me for the first time. And again, welcome, Tommy Rowell. I'd like to have both of you kind of chime in about this latest up and down. This has been quite a cycle, and your two viewpoints, I think, would be very, very interesting. Rowell Auctions has been around for 76 years and kind of transformed from just doing land-based farm kind of assets to now they're doing a lot of auctions for banks, a lot of absolute auctions. The banks are trying to get their properties off the books because they're getting heat from the regulators. But it's been quite a up and down scenario, and I'm trying to find out from both of you, what do you think of it, and are we at the bottom going up, or where are we? And first of all, Tommy, why don't you introduce yourself just a little bit to Tony and to our listeners?
Well, good morning. Tony, it's a pleasure having you on the show. I'm a Bulldog. I'm a Georgia Bulldog graduate. So, and been in the real estate auction business my entire career for the last 35 years. And we've seen markets open and close and up and down. And in today's market, we think that we are certainly at the bottom in many of the markets that we travel throughout the United States. There's still one or two pockets that we still see that have a good bit of inventory backed up with a good many properties, what we consider in the shadow inventory for foreclosure. But there are many, many markets that have really begun to improve. You see the inventories, existing inventory diminishing, which will certainly increase demand. What are you seeing, Tony?
Well, first of all, Doug, I do have a son who is a Bulldog as well, so I do have a dog, so to speak, in that hunt these days.
Wonderful?
So, But the real estate market has changed dramatically here in Metro Atlanta. And you may know this market was one of the toughest hit in the country. And there's something that is a little unique about Atlanta. We were one of the nation's leaders in new home construction. We were building 60,000 units at the peak in 2006, and it was always Atlanta and Houston were vying for the highest number of new home starts. And of course that bubble burst, and we were saddled with a tremendous backlog of distressed properties. For starting out really mostly as foreclosures, and then short sales kind of came on the scenes, and that's a substantial part of the mix these days. But what's happened over the last few years in Atlanta, this really started in late 2007 and really started accelerating in 2008 and 2009. And over the course of time, though, markets do cycle. So now, today, we have extremely low inventory, and the percentage of distressed properties has dropped dramatically in our markets, especially in the main markets that are gaining the most popularity. We still have about 38% of total sales in distressed properties. That's down from well over 60% 2 years ago. So the market mix is changing, and new homes is even starting to make a little bit of a comeback. So instead of down to 5,000 units a year from 60, they're bumping up around an average of about 10,000 starts right now. And we expect new homes to continue to grow and be a greater piece of the mix as they work their way back up to what should be about 25,000 units in the next 3 or 4 years. So from a value standpoint, values were just clobbered here in Metro Atlanta. We were down, if you look at Case-Shiller and some of the other reporting, we were down well over 40%. But we're starting to climb back up, especially in the better areas, the better performing areas. Prices are on the rise again, and we see the long-term trajectory extremely good for being able to buy when prices and mortgage rates are extremely low, and over time prices will climb, and you'll have a very positive outcome. The result of that is there are a lot of investors in Atlanta right now, and have been for the last couple of years, both small investors and very large conglomerates, big investment funds, investment banking funds, private equity firms. There's a whole lot of activity in the investor side. That's normally about 20% of our business, and we estimate that's well up into the 30s today.
Well, that's very interesting. I live in St. Augustine, Florida. I run the St. Augustine office for Rowell Auctions. Tommy, of course, is in corporate as the CEO in Moultrie, Georgia, which is 2 hours, 2.5 hours south from you. But we do a lot of business in that Atlanta area. Tell me, Tommy, about the banks. Why have they chosen your company to try to get all of these assets that are on the books and causing a lot of time for their staff, basically, to work on? Why have they chosen Rowell Auctions?
Well, Doug, in 2007, when the inventories grew as the market began to fall, they had to turn to an accelerated marketing method to move these homes, and they were moving, just as Tony pointed out, at a much discounted price. And that assisted the banks in putting that capital back to work and back into the markets. And today, of course, their inventories are much smaller than they were 5 years ago. And as our economy improves significantly, lending is coming back to more of a norm today. And auctions with the banks today are producing good values and still assisting them in some of their problemed assets.
Tony, I was lucky enough to be asked to write an article or interview for an article that came out in Florida Realtor this month, and it was all about how brokers can make money through auctions. And to briefly give you the ideas that I have, number one, you can make money as a broker through an auction by bringing buyers. And auctions are, depending on the size of the asset or assets, if it's a $10 million deal, maybe they're only offering 1% as a co-op fee. But if they're doing condos in an area that really needs help, sometimes they're giving 4%. So it ranges from 1 to 4%. So that's the first way to make money. The second way to make money is, and my specialty is government auctions. I've worked for the FDIC, RTC, Fannie Mae, SBA, U.S. Marshals, the Department of Defense. So large auctions, and when the government says, okay, we've got, pick a number, 100 properties in the Atlanta area, even though we have brokers, we have broker licenses for Georgia, we always go to seek out a firm that is very well known in the area, has great credibility, and we become partners in a way to get the word out to all the buyers, to help us with previews, to help us with property information, directions to the assets. And so we actually pay them, I call it a local auction headquarters. We pay them a percentage to assist us, and every time we do an ad, our logo will be the same size as the local brokerage. And every time we have a sign, the logos will be the same size. We're working as partners there. And it's worked very, very good. I probably worked for in 40 different states across the country. So that's the second way, as a local brokerage, and helping us as a local auction headquarters. The third way is to refer us business when there's a broker that says, I want to do business, but the bank or the client says, I got to sell it now. How do we do it? Do you know any auctions firm? We give referrals out. And then lastly, which is a great one, especially in the down market, is brokers know the prices of these assets better than anybody. And so if they're at the auction and the property is probably worth $100,000 and the bid is only at $70,000 right now, a broker can raise their hand if they're registered, bid $75,000 and become their own property asset specialist with their own portfolio. So I wanted to share that with you because it just came out in the Florida Realtor, and I know your company has worked with auction companies before, but I just wanted to share that with you.
Great. We'll look forward to talking a bit more offline about that. We're always interested in pursuing things that benefit our clients, benefit our agents, and benefit our companies.
Well, tell me, what is your crystal ball about the marketplace? It looks as though it's going up, and Tommy talked about the shadow inventory. What are you thinking? Are you thinking that 2013 is going to be a banner year? I know you gave some thoughts, but give us Atlanta and then give me the national scene, if you would.
Sure. For Metro Atlanta, we're very bullish on what we see happening in 2013. There are a lot of moving parts to these equations, but generally it boils down to basic supply and demand. And mortgage rates and things like that are kind of the wild cards. So mortgage rates, are extremely, extremely low, as we all know. The Fed's spending $85 billion a month to keep them that way, and seems to be willing to do that for the foreseeable future until unemployment gets to 6.5%. So we believe you will see extremely low mortgage rates for the next couple of years, but the long-term consequences of all that printing money will likely cause inflation to happen. If you go back 50 years, the average mortgage rate was 8%. And we believe 3 to 5 years out, we're going to see mortgage rates creep back up into that 6 to 8% area very, very rapidly.
Okay.
So there's a short-term window that could have a major impact for buyers who need to have a mortgage. So I'll stipulate that because we believe that that is a great opportunity for current purchases. From a value standpoint and a transaction standpoint, it goes back to demand again, supply and demand. Supply is very, very, very low, which generally makes prices go up.
Right.
And so will demand stay, and what will cause that? Well, let me give you a few stats for Metro Atlanta related to demand. So
Okay.
number one, our corporate relocation team is very active with some significant group moves from companies today. And for Metro Atlanta, commercial real estate's on sale. It's a great deal, and we are one of the lowest cost locations to do business in America of a major metropolitan area. So we have companies very active in relocating people and moving their operations here to Metro Atlanta. And, of course, they can jump on an airplane and get anywhere in the world very quickly here. So that's a huge plus for us and is beginning to play out. Second big factor is there's a migration that's back underway from the Rust Belt to the Sun Belt. So Georgia, Florida, Carolinas, Texas are benefiting from that, and we're certainly getting our fair share. If you look at population growth, the future population growth trends here are very, very strong. One of those specific groups is kind of interesting. Baby boomers are on the move, aren't they?
Yes.
10,000 a day, retiring. We have the two largest populations of people between the ages 25 and 39 and under 20 of almost any metro in the country. So there's a whole lot of baby boomers moving here to be close to their children and grandchildren. All these trends, and I could go on with population trends and other trends for buyers, but the future buying and selling is going to be very active here in Atlanta, and it's going to drive prices up because there's just not enough inventory.
Tony, that is excellent information. You seem to be, and your company seem to be, the major factor in the real estate market in Atlanta. Can you give me website contact information for people who want to contact you and your firm?
Sure. Yeah, yes, we are the largest real estate company in Metro Atlanta. We do more transactions than anybody, and we've earned that from a lot of hard work over the years. You can contact us from our website at Prudential GA, short for Georgia, prudentialga.com. You can contact me personally at tony.floyd@prudentialga.com or 404-372-7791.
Very good. Hey, Tony, thank you so much for coming on. Please give my best to Dan Forsman, your CEO. And Tommy and I have really enjoyed meeting you over the air. We'll have to have you back another time and also have Dan on the show again. We appreciate your time. Have a great weekend.
Our pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony. Nice to meet you.
Okay. Folks, that was Tony Floyd. He is the Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer of Prudential Georgia Realty in Atlanta. 1,000 agents in 43 counties, 22 offices. They are the largest in the area. Want to thank him very much to come on the show on this Friday and represent the Prudential Georgia Realty from Atlanta. We're going to go to a break, and then we'll be right back with Tommy Rowell, CEO of Rowell Auctions. Okay, we are back. You are listening to the National Real Estate Auction Radio Show. I am your host, Doug Dennison. We just had a great interview with Tony Floyd, Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer of Prudential Georgia Realty. They have 1,000 agents up there. He's telling us that Atlanta is very, very strong right now. Low inventory, which drives up prices. And again, Tony, thank you for coming on. I appreciate that. We also have in the studio my boss, the CEO of Rowell Auctions, Tommy Rowell. And you are the first studio guest for the show in a long time. I usually just have Colin, so it's a pleasure to have you here, sir. Tommy, tell us a little bit about yourself, the company, how it's transformed, and we can go from there.
Thank you, Doug. Our company was founded in 1936 by my grandfather. I am the third generation in the real estate auction business. And Rowell Auctions has grown from a small local company to a national company that has done auction sales in 46 states across America. And we have done all types of sales, from commercial sales to agricultural sales. And Doug, recently in the last 5 years, of course, we've been addressing the issues that with bank foreclosures and selling this inventory, assisting these banks in liquidating these inventories, getting those properties back into the private sector, and which has really been beneficial for the markets. Once we get those properties back in the hands of the private sector, the market will return. And as Tony Floyd pointed out, the market is really coming back strong, and we are very excited to see the return in today's market. Outstanding opportunities in real estate. When you really look at overall investments, if you've got cash money, where in the world are you going to put cash money today?
Yes, very true.
If it's in CDs, you're making about 0.5% on CDs. Really not even keeping up with inflation. So the real estate values, while they are at the bottom moving up, this is the time to be buying. And, of course, if you want to leverage your purchase in real estate today, interest rates are at an all-time low. We have never seen real estate's interest rates, at 3% in my lifetime.
Yep.
So this is really an exciting period for us in real estate, and this rebound, there can be some very nice investments made. Income-producing properties are doing exceptionally well in today's market. We're seeing multifamily, for example, that are producing good, solid returns. When you can look at a 10% return on a multifamily investment as compared to stock portfolios plus interest, your CD rates, that's an outstanding opportunity to invest in real estate. So we're seeing these types of real estate markets improve as investors come in and purchase, and end users as well. Home sales are picking up. So we're very excited about the future of today's market. In Rowell Auctions, we sell commercial, industrial, agricultural, and residential properties as well. And again, we've been in over 46 states, so we're here to serve those needs.
Well, thank you, Tommy, and it's been quite a progression to now where Rowell Auction is one of the top auction firms in the country. A little bit of how you did that growth is you were smart enough to figure out that the banks needed help a few years ago and started working on that. And to your credit, you pushed for absolute auctions. And so when you would go into a bank, it wasn't just to see if they could do an auction and maybe sell them. You went in and were looking for an absolute auction, which has been very beneficial because I've seen the reference letters for your company from the banks. But why is it good for not only the buyer but the seller as well when you sell at absolute auction?
Well, an absolute auction tells the buyers that we're here to sell this property. We're going to accept the highest and last bid. The seller, from the seller's standpoint, there's no safety net under them in case the property were to fall, and everybody says, well, what if it brings $1? That does not happen. if we did, we would have we wouldn't be doing many absolute auctions. But absolute auctions today produce maximum interest in the properties simply because and a buyer knows that if he goes and does his due diligence and he is the highest and last bidder, that he's going to be able to buy that property. And as compared to an auction with reserve, you're not certain that the seller is going to accept your bid if you're the highest and last bidder. So from that standpoint, absolute auctions generate much more interest. And as a buyer, you certainly want to look at those sales because you know that you have the ability to buy that property if you're the highest and last bidder. So,
so if you're a buyer, you really look at auctions because there's a lot of them around, and you're wondering which one am I going to really spend my time, interest, and money on. And if it's absolute, you know it's going to sell, so you're willing to do the homework. You're willing to work with a broker. You're willing to travel to the property to look at it, maybe make some studies on comparables, compared to if it was just a auction subject to the seller's reserve or confirmation. You might go through all those steps, be the high bidder, and be told no, you can't buy it.
That's correct.
Okay,
and that's disappointing.
Yes.
And it costs you money as well in performing your due diligence in time and efforts.
It certainly does. And again, you have done a great job doing absolute auctions that really have brought the banks to their senses and saying, wow, this is a good thing. I didn't think I could get it through the board. I did get it through the board, and now I'm a hero because we've sold 400 properties that we didn't even think would do that well. We sold them absolute. They're off our books. We no longer have to deal with the regulators who are upset that we had so many on the books, and we don't have to have all of the staff time associated with one asset, because sometimes it could be a $10,000 property and take as much time as a $1 million property, which is hard to believe, but it's true.
It certainly can. So from especially a lender standpoint, they're most interested in selling these properties, moving on. They make their money by lending money, not by owning property. So they are most interested in selling their foreclosed properties. Now, they've also got to maximize the price, and that's why they're selling at absolute auction, because that generates the most interest and the highest and best possible price. And also, of course, you have to have all of your financing requirements completed as a purchaser, because absolute auctions are generally a cash sale, which simply means it's not contingent upon financing. You have to close within that 30-day period, and that's a trade-off for the absolute auction. Outstanding opportunity for you in today's market. So take a close look at these absolute auctions that you see in your area, and if you find properties that you're interested in, make those preparations and go bid.
Well, we have talked about bank auctions and absolute auctions, and now I want to kind of go out into the government area. And you and I have been very active up in Washington, D.C. Tell me from your perspective, you and I heard about these 14,000 government surplus properties that were available almost a year and a half ago, and we've been working hard to have the government sell those, hopefully by auction. But from your perspective, because you've been up in Washington several times meeting with congressional leaders and government officials, what do you think about the 14,000 government surplus properties and the taxpayer cost and what we can do about it.
Doug, in fact, President Obama came out early in his first term and identified the 14,000 properties that are underutilized or considered as surplus, and suggested that these properties be sold to reduce our deficit. And without a doubt, that is a very good opportunity for taxpayers to benefit, is having our congressman pass the surplus property bill so that these properties may be sold in the private sector and begin increasing in value and being utilized by the private sector.
It seems as though the American taxpayer has no idea what the real costs are, and the GAO has come up with a number that it says these 14,000 government surplus properties are costing us $1 billion a year in holding cost, and I always love to go back to that Washington Post Office Annex that costs the American taxpayer $6 million a year because it's abandoned, and yet it has been abandoned for 10 years. Now that's $60 million, folks, and you got a few of those, and you can find out where the all that money is going. And certainly, it seems like a win-win for a taxpayer, the president, the Senate, the House, Democrats, Republicans. If you can sell some properties off and stop having all these holding costs, I think that would be a no-brainer for the American political system.
Doug, there is bipartisan support for this initiative. It's going to take a lot of work, and we need the American public to talk to their congressman and encourage them to support this bill to reduce government spending, government waste. There's another property that Doug and I went down to Miami,
yes,
to a federal courthouse that has been a new courthouse was built across the street in downtown Miami, and the old courthouse has not been utilized in 5 years, costing roughly $1 million a year to maintain that property, heat, security, and keep the building up. So there are some huge opportunities for government to reduce the size, not grow the size of government, but to reduce the size. So we need the American public to step up and speak to your representatives, your senators, encourage them to support this initiative.
Well, two congressmen who have been really doing a fine job on this issue is Congressman Jeff Denham from California and also Congressman John Mica from Florida. They have been to these properties. They have held congressional hearings, just like the one we were in Miami. I actually interviewed John Mica, Congressman John Mica, at the abandoned courthouse. You mentioned that it cost $1 million, $1.2 million each year to maintain, but when we were in there, didn't it smell a little mildewy to you?
Oh, it was musty and mildewy,
yes.
And you could tell that it hadn't been used in quite some time. And it's a beautiful facility in a fantastic location. And if it were sold in the private sector, entrepreneurs would come in and really utilize that property properly. It would create jobs and stimulate the economy.
Well, it would, because a government property, they don't pay taxes to the local municipalities. And when you have an abandoned property, it affects the local businesses, and it affects the local property values. So all of a sudden, if you get a private sector person coming in, just like you said, they're going to be fixing it up, hiring people, buying goods and services, increasing the value of the property, making the businesses in the area get better because there'll be more people in the area using their services. Again, a win-win situation. Congressman Denham had a bill called H.R. 1734. It was passed last year, but that was last year. So they are doing it again. I heard from Congressman Denham's office just yesterday. They are going to reintroduce the legislation into the House. Hopefully it will be passed. And this year, hopefully, it is going to be gone into the Senate. The Senate hopefully will work with them, tweak it. I have met with Velvet Johnson from Senator Carper's office. They have a bill that is similar. Hopefully they will get down together and work on this because it needs to be done very quickly. Tommy, tell us, you have a lot of auctions going on. Can you give us some of the upcoming ones and how can people find out about all these auctions?
Certainly, Doug. Next week is an exciting week for Rowell Auctions. We have some great opportunities coming up. On Wednesday, January the 30th, we are selling an airplane. For you pilots and plane enthusiasts, we have a 1969 Cessna 182 that is being sold online only. This is an online auction, and you can go to www.rowell, R-O-W-E-L-L, auctions, AUCTIONS.com. Click on upcoming auctions to bid on that airplane. So that would be on Wednesday. On Thursday, we have an outstanding opportunity to purchase 5,200 acres.
Wow.
A huge estate. Dr. Harold Harrison. Dr. Harrison was the former cardiovascular surgeon and chief of staff at St. Joseph's Hospital in Atlanta. And Dr. Harrison had a dear love of the land. He was operating himself this 5,200 acre farming operation, and it's about 2,600 acres of this land, Doug, in row crop land, and about 2,600 acres in timberland. And this timber is from 20 to 25 years old, which is a super investment for both the timber investor as well as the investor that's looking for recreation land for fantastic hunting. We've got streams on it. We've got a mill pond on part of it. But at 20-year-old timber, that's gone through the expensive stage of holding, and you are able to harvest timber about every 5 years from 20 years forward. So you're really in the chips with the timber. And we're going to offer it in we've got it offered in 49 separate tracts. It'll be offered in tracts in combinations and as a whole. Now, this is an on-site auction. It'll be held in Bartow, Georgia, 3700 Baldy Road, Bartow, Georgia, which is northeast Georgia, about an hour east of Savannah, and about 2 hours west. It'd be an hour west of Savannah and in Augusta, and about 2 hours east of Atlanta. So a fantastic location, and that's going to be happening next Thursday, January the 31st. And then on February the 2nd, we're going to still be there in Bartow, Georgia, and we'll be liquidating all of the equipment and machinery that operated Dr. Harrelson's farm. Late model John Deere tractors, late model John Deere combine, cotton picker, bulldozers, trucks, RVs, ATVs, we've got a little bit of everything there, and that's going to be an exciting opportunity for next week. And then,
Well, hold on to that thought just a second, because I'm going to take a quick break, and then I want to get down to the secret of why you're very successful. Hold on for just a second.
MarkNet Alliance is a national, membership-based network of 41 auction companies. Our companies are successful auction professionals with proven track records and thriving businesses. The MarkNet companies have a staff of over 540 employees who are working hard every day to meet the goals of their clients during our ever-changing economy. MarkNet companies are able to achieve these goals through cutting-edge technologies and ever-growing investor pools. To view the hundreds of auctions currently being conducted, or for more information, visit marknetalliance.com.
All right, we are back. You're listening to National Real Estate Auction Radio Show. We have as a studio guest Tommy Rowell, the CEO of Rowell Auctions. He is going to tell us the secret to his success, and I'm going to give him or give the listener a little hint. To be a success as an auction firm, as an auctioneer, you've got to have the buyers. To get the buyers, you have to market. And Tommy, how have you been so successful?
Doug, it's through very positive promotion and being a part of the MarkNet Alliance. MarkNet Alliance is an alliance of 55 auction companies across America. And folks, this alliance, last year alone, our alliance conducted over 6,000 auctions.
Wow.
And what is even more phenomenal, Doug, we had 813,000 registered bidders in 2012 for our auctions. What kind of coverage can anybody expect when you can expose your property to that many varied people? That is a fabulous opportunity, and that has contributed significantly to the success of Rowell Auctions.
Well, MarkNet Alliance, again, a group of 55 auction firms utilizing all their talent, all their skills, and their money to be the best technology for internet bidding and the best as far as advertising. That just makes sense to me. And if you can continue that and bring all the buyers, because MarkNetAlliance.com has become a go-to site for people looking for value in auctions. And so they're trying to find out about auctions. They can pick out whether they want New Hampshire, or if they want to have California, if they want Florida, Georgia, whatever. They can find out what's happening. So it's MarkNetAlliance.com. And Tommy, this has been real fun. It's great to have a studio guest such as yourself be on the show, and I want to thank you for coming on. Tell us how people can go to Rowell Auctions website and find out about all of the auctions, because I know you've got more than the ones that you just you gave us. How can they go to the website, and is there a telephone number they can call?
Yes, that'd be Rowell, Rowell, auctions, AUCTIONS.com. Click on current auctions, and our toll-free number is 800-323-8388. Give us a call.
Again, that's 800-323-8388, RowellAuctions.com. A lot of internet bidding, and you can find out about that by just going on the website. And Tommy, isn't there some videos that you can actually see to find out?
How-to videos
Yes.
are there explaining. If you've never bid online, it is a very simple process. It is a fun process, Doug. You'll love it and be able to make some fantastic investments while you're having fun.
And if you call that 800 number, 800-323-8388, Allison Marchetti will probably answer the phone. If you have a question about a certain auction, she can get you to the right person involved. If you have questions about internet bidding, you can ask her and she'll walk you through the process. This is why Mr. Rowell has been so very successful. He's got great people and great technology. He's gone with the great alliance and MarkNet Alliance. And again, we've got big auctions coming up, including, listen to this, 5,200 acres coming up. Folks, I want to thank you for listening to the show. We've had great guests. We've had Tony Floyd, Senior Vice President, Chief Marketing Officer of Prudential, Georgia. And we've also got Tommy Rowell, CEO of Rowell Auctions. We will see you next week. And again, thank you for listening.